Welcome to PyramidTimes channel. We have wonderful guest with us, Jennifer K.Hill. She is an author, speaker, TV and radio host, entrepreneur, and thought leader. She has hosted popular shows with Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Rollin McCraty, Dr. Dain Heer, Gary Douglas, and many other leaders from around the world. When she is not hosting or speaking, she loves to give back and has built 2 schools in third world countries. With this, I welcome Jennifer K.Hill.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Today we are going to discuss on her book, 101 Spiritual Tools for Uncertain Times. This is a wonderful book. When I was going through each and every word is so profound, and it has immense research she has done all across the years. And she put it in a very simpler way that users can directly benefit from each of the tools she has provided. And I congratulate her for writing this wonderful book.
Thank you so much. It came to fruition during the middle of COVID. One day I was sitting down and doing my morning meditation practice. And in the midst of it, I got a download that in that moment, I was supposed to write a book, 101 Spiritual Tools for Uncertain Times. And without batting an eyelash, 101 tools came to me and I just wrote them down. And then I started writing.
Yeah, it's so profound that after reading it, I could recollect Jack Canfield's work, Chicken Soup for Soul series. So as you have started this book 1 of 10, we are very much looking forward for the rest of the books and a lot more series from you. And it has very profound information. It's not just your knowledge. You have put every great master's knowledge into it in a very simplistic way. And you have put a lot of stories and also examples you have related us very much. So what advice would you give to someone who is new to the spiritual path?
You know, wherever you're at is first to just accept and acknowledge yourself wherever you're at. We've all been through whatever we've been through in our lives. And I talk about in the book how I was the antithesis of somebody who was spiritual. From when I was about 15 years old to probably about 21, 22, I had moved away from spirituality and religion, and I kind of went into a finding myself sort of phase. I was not necessarily a healthy person mentally or physically at that point. And it was only when I was reintroduced to spirituality at about the age of 22 that something clicked. And know that wherever you're at, that the timing will be perfect for you. That's what's really important to keep in mind. I've had people who say, oh, Jennifer, I try to meditate and I just can't. Or I try to pray and I don't hear God's voice, or I don't get any messages. And I think the idea is to keep practicing. It's about practicing every day in the same way that you're going to strengthen a physical muscle by repeatedly breaking down the muscle. The same is true of your spiritual path. It's going to take breaking down the ego, breaking down and then embracing the ego, and then surrendering and letting go. And in the same way that you have to break down a muscle and rebuild it, such as our spiritual lives, until eventually you build this very strong spiritual core. And for some of you, that might be prayer. It might be chanting. It might be meditation. And that's why I wanted to write this book of 101 spiritual tools, because there is no one right or wrong tool. Whatever tool resonates with you and it speaks to your heart and allows you to be your highest and best version of yourself, that's all that matters. Who cares whether this guru or that guru says you should or should not be doing this? Do what makes your heart happy and allows you to be the best version of yourself.
That's very wonderful. So who are your role models and whom do you take inspiration from in daily life?
You know, I have so many favorite teachers, and I reference many of them in the book. One of my very first spiritual teachers is Shannon Leischner, who's one of the top psychics in the world. And I remember very early on when I began my meditation path, I started meditating, and Veena, I don't know if this ever happened to you or to any of you out there listening. What happened to me is I would meditate and I would get so angry when I came out of meditation. I would come out, I'd be like totally blissed out, and I'd come out of meditation and I'd be reactive and, judgmental. So one day I called my friend Shannon and I said, Shannon, help, why is this happening? She said, Jen, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your stress level? At that point, I had just opened my own company. I said, okay, scale of 1 to 10, probably about a 12. She said, great. What are you doing to ground yourself in your meditation. And I gave her googly eyes. I said, what? Ground what? I was so new, I didn't know what this meant. And so one of my favorite techniques that I still use every single day in my meditations that Shannon taught me is she said, listen, when you're going from being in a completely blissed out state of zero stress, and then you shock yourself back into your body with no transition, your body is going to be very disoriented. And so what Shannon suggested, and I do this every time, is to visualize a bubble of white light and imagine it going down through your crown, through your third eye, through your throat, through your heart, through your solar plexus, your sacral, your root, down to the center of the earth, and drawing up beautiful white light and earth energy and shooting that back up through your root, your sacral, your all those areas back up through your crown, down through your third eye, down through your throat, and to rest it in your heart. And thank God for Shannon, she was amazing. So that's now become one of my practices. David Guillaume is an amazing teacher with Kabbalah. If anybody's interested in Kabbalah, I think they're offering some of the Kabbalah classes for free or any amount of donation. And I would recommend his podcast is the only podcast I listen to every week. It's called Weekly Energy Boost. And again, I could give you a list of probably 100 of my teachers, but that's why I wrote the book, is because they all inspire me in different ways to be the best version of myself.
Yeah, I do see a lot of around 50 links you have provided to best material in the world. Although we could research so much, we couldn't get that kind of information. It shows how much you are dedicated to spiritual growth and all, how much you are showing the concern to the planet Earth in your own way contribution. And I do see there is a technique mentioned how to get rid of the physical pain, something related to the heart chakra. Okay, do you want to explain it?
So are you talking about pain talking or heart talking? Because there are 3 things that I talk about in book 1 in 101 Spiritual Tools. One is pain talking, another is heart talking, and the third is soul talking. So which one would you like me to touch on?
Pain talking.
Pain talk. It's so funny. Right before this interview, I was actually doing some pain talking because I have on my shoulder right here, I love to run, and I have like kind of a abrasion on my shoulder that's really hurting me. And so I talk to people in the book and in my life. The first thing I do if I have pain is I say, what is the reason? I immediately put my right hand on whatever the area is that has the pain. And then I begin to lovingly talk to it. First, I thank it. I thank the pain. I say, thank you, pain. You know, I appreciate that you're in my life right now to help me learn a lesson. And right now, when I was talking literally right before we came on to record this episode, I asked the pain, I said, pain, help me understand. Why are you in my life right now? And the pain said, you need to slow down. You're on autopilot sometimes. And when you're on autopilot, you're inadvertently causing yourself harm. Even this morning, this is silly, but I was dancing around the kitchen. My inner child said she wanted to dance today. So another thing I do is I do inner child work. And this morning she said, oh, I really want to dance. So I'm dancing around the kitchen as making breakfast. And this song came on by, I think it's Black Eyed Peas, called Tonight's Gonna Be a Good Night. And I start jumping up and down, and I'm, so in the moment that I lost myself and I bumped my heel on the stairs in my apartment. And you just laugh, though. That's the thing, is when you have pain, just know that the pain is there to offer you a gift. And whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, none of it is bad. It's all there as a beautiful gift. And so when I started talking to my shoulder, it was a very clear message, just to slow down, and that the more I slow down, that this will disappear, as well as any other pain I'm experiencing, but it's a gift.
That's beautifully explained. I was wondering, maybe Indians are providing a lot of spiritual knowledge, but by going through your book, this simple understanding is not provided in some of the Indian books also. I feel so nice reading your book. I just want to read again and again. It has so much of simplicity. At the same time, it goes deep inside for us to practice further. That's the beauty of your book. And what types of meditation do you practice, and do you have a favorite one?
I love meditating. If I have it all my way, if I could have a perfect day, I love to meditate for 3 hours. On a typical day, I'm going to meditate for about an hour. My favorite practice is I begin my day with a mantra meditation from Transcendental Meditation. So I'll typically begin with a 20 to 30-minute meditation, followed by just connecting to source and prayer. And I love to ask, one of my teachers, Reverend Michael Beckwith, taught me to ask God every morning, God, what is my assignment today? That's one of my favorite things to ask. And I love it because sometimes I get totally different answers. So then after I've done that meditation, then I do some prayers, and I love to take baths. Baths for me are my soul peace time. And I love to either listen to a chakra meditation or a manifestation meditation while I'm in the bath for at least 10 to 15 minutes. And then every night before I go to bed, I listen to Alison Surur's meditation called a Kabbalistic evening meditation on Insight Timer. And Veena, it is so beautiful. Every night, as I'm falling asleep, it's about a 25-minute meditation. She has you talk to your soul. Soul, who do I need to forgive tonight? Soul, what would you like me to know? Soul, as you travel to the furthest reaches, what would you like me to heal, or what should I have you bring back? So you're literally talking to your soul as you fall asleep. And in fact, I was reading Joe Dispenza's book, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think it was called Becoming Superhuman or Becoming Supernatural. And in that book, he talks about whatever we do right before we go to bed, within the last, say, hour or so before bed, is what's going to set our consciousness, not only for that night, but for the coming day. And so you want to be very thoughtful if you're watching something violent, or if you're watching commercials with subliminal messages, that's going to have an impact. Whether that impact is good or bad, it depends. But that's why for me, I spend a half hour in prayer before bed and then listen to that half-hour meditation, so that the last hour right before I go to sleep is all spent in prayer, reflection, and meditation.
That's very nice to know. Also, you have mentioned about gratitude. It literally made me move. How 100 days of practice could change our lives totally to a different dimension or different level that we could operate. Can you emphasize more on this?
So say that one more time. I'm so sorry. They're doing a little bit of construction where I'm at, and I want to be sure I heard. So you were saying about gratitude, and what was the question?
Yeah. So going through your book, you have practiced 100 days of gratitude, and I do see that you are still practicing it, and definitely it will make a lot of shifts in our one's life. So what made you to choose this gratitude, and how were the results of practicing this?
Well, it's incredible. I talk about in the book, I was first inspired by a woman's project called the 365 Grateful Project. So it began for me about probably 10 years ago. I was inspired by this woman who was a photographer, and she was married and had a child and was going through struggles in her life. And somebody, I think it was a nun, had suggested that she practice gratitude. So in the photographer's case, what she did is she took one picture per day and posted what she was grateful for. So I began doing that about over 10 years ago, and I got up to 400, and I think it was 35 days of pictures of things I was grateful for. And then I began to expand it. And so now in my practice, there are 3 things that I do with respect to gratitude every day. Number 1 is when I first wake up in the morning, before I even meditate, I list the top 10 things I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's sunshine, sometimes it's a warm bed, or kisses from my puppy dog, or cuddles from my fiance, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's having water to drink, very simple things. Having been to all parts of the world, I realize that having water or hot water or a toilet are all luxuries, so I don't take any of those things for granted. So I start the day with 10 things that I'm grateful for. Every night before I go to bed, I list at least 3 things different than what I was grateful for in the morning. So the last thing I'm finishing my day with is what I'm grateful for. And one of the practices I talk about in the book that really I find valuable is if I notice that I'm getting angry or reactive or short-tempered with people, or if I'm being ungrateful, I immediately stop what I'm doing, no matter where or what I'm doing, and I force myself to write down 100 things I'm grateful for. No kidding. I have many lists on my phone from the times where this has happened, where you're just feeling irritable with the world. And so I'm like, okay, the only way to get myself out of that mentality and to shift the space that I'm in is I will literally go through and write down 100, no joke, things I'm grateful for. Now, if you're new to gratitude, maybe for you, it would be an opportunity for growth to write down 20 or 10. So my version is 100 when I'm struggling, but you have to check and see what's right for you.
That's very nice to know. Maybe we could also start practicing similar thing and see shifts in our own life. So Jennifer, when someone is faced with a challenge in their life, do you have any advice on how to handle it?
When we experience a challenge, I would recommend to get excited about it. I know it sounds contrary. This is a lot of fun though, because this is something I learned from my Kabbalistic teacher, David Heer, and many of the other famous sages of Kabbalah. They say that say you really want something more than anything else, you want your soulmate, you want your dream house, you want your dream job, you want a TV show, whatever it is that your heart longs for, you want that thing. Kabbalistically speaking, they say that there are 3 tests that you will need to pass in order to be able to receive it. So I love the way the Kabbalists speak about light. The Kabbalists say all there is endless light. Everything around us is endless light. But we have to earn the light and do the work to expand our capacity to hold the light. Just the other day, I was listening to my teacher, David Heer, and he was saying that, imagine yourself as though you're a 60-watt light bulb. If you're a 60-watt light bulb, the most amount of light that you will ever be able to hold in that light bulb vessel is 60 watts. So let's say that you want $1 million or a soulmate. How do you then increase to a 100-watt light bulb so you can contain that 100 watts or whatever it is of the light? And how you do that is through spiritual work and through earning the light. Look at many examples of lottery winners. 95% of them lose all their money right away because they don't have the capacity to hold the light. So the next time that you experience a challenge, know that you are 1/3 of the way closer to whatever miracle you want. One of my dear friends just went through the hardest time of her life. She's a single mom. She had no money. She couldn't even pay her rent. And now she has one of the most famous dolls in the whole wide world that just went viral around the world. But I told her, I remember when she was going through this, I said, listen, know that every time that you feel like you're not going to survive it, that you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel, that you are one step closer to achieving all of the miracles that you want, because there will be 3 tests. And so every time you experience a challenge, embrace it with gratitude to know that you're one step closer to receiving your miracle.
So you say it's for our own growth, the challenges are given in our lives.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. All the challenges, think about when life goes well. When life is easy, it's actually, you don't remember the times when life is easy. When life is easy, that kind of blurs, but it's those moments where you persevered. For me, one of those moments was when I divorced my ex-husband. We had been together for 14 years. And right after our 10-year wedding anniversary, I had said, we need some time apart because I was growing more spiritual and he wanted to golf and play video games. We just had diverged. We had different priorities. And so we spent 3 months going to counseling and doing all of that. And on October 24th, almost 2 years ago exactly, it took all my strength, Veena. I was beside myself because I loved this man. And I said, universe, what do you want me to do? And I decided to divorce him because I knew we weren't good for each other. We weren't helping each other grow any further. So that day I had asked him for a divorce, and less than a week later, I remember I was out with some friends at a Gratitude Girls dinner we did. And Veena, I was sobbing on the floor. I was so heartbroken to have left this man that I spent 14 years with. And I remember being on my hands and knees and knowing these tools. And I said, listen, universe, God, give me the strength. I can't do this on my own. Here's what I need. I need your help right now. I know this is for the good. And I told the universe, I said, universe, I want my soulmate. Here's the thing. I'm willing to push to do whatever it takes. And I ask that you give me my soulmate and I will do the work. But I was crying and just beside myself. And less than 2 weeks later, I met my soulmate and we've been together ever since.
That's awesome. Many of the viewers who are looking to get engaged or whatever, finding a true friend, it could be a answer from Jennifer as well. It is possible that we can get whatever we are looking for from the universe. Definitely universe has our back.
Exactly. And we just have to trust that it's for the good. That's one of my other favorite sayings from some of my teachers is that know with certainty that this is for the good. I don't know how, but it's for the good.
Yeah. So in the book, I do see a lot of places you have mentioned about Kabbalah. I am pretty new to this topic. Can you describe what exactly Kabbalah practices are?
Yeah, great question. So Kabbalah, I probably started studying it about 8 years ago. So I'm by no means an expert. I highly recommend follow David Heer on Instagram or follow Weekly Energy Boost. They can give you a lot more insight, but I'll give you like the 30-second, 1-minute insight. What I love is that the Kabbalah say that in the beginning of time, all there was light. Imagine that you had God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, and God gave light, and there was the light and there was the vessel. And we were the vessel, and our only goal in life was to receive. We were just receiving endless light, receiving endless light. However, we wanted to be like God. So we said, God, I don't only want to receive, I want to share. And in that moment is when the Big Bang happened, because when the vessel shattered and we said, I want to give light as well as receive light, that's when we pushed back the light and we all shattered into millions and billions of little souls around the planet. Now, in order to play the game of receiving light ourselves without having, like, imagine if I give you, you're going to feel shame and guilt because you want to be able to reciprocate and do something in return. So that's why my favorite Kabbalistic analogy is the one of a soccer game. So imagine that you have a soccer net, right? And there's no goalie there. There's no goalie. And here you are with a ball, and all you do is you kick the ball into the net. That's not a game. There's no soccer game. So what the Kabbalists say is that we created our own Satan, our own dark side, our ego, whatever you want to call it. And that ego is the goalie, the side that kind of tells us, you're bad, you'll never get it right, you're not worth anything. That's our, whatever you want to call it, from Freud, our dark side. But that is the goalie that is playing against us in this made-up game. This is all one big made-up game. So I like to say that Kabbalah is analogous to having a game that you're playing, but actually knowing how to win at the game. Most of us, we're all playing the game of life, but it helps. Like if you're playing a video game and you want to defeat the key bad guy, you need to know up, A, B, B is what's going to defeat the bad guy. Nobody has the playbook to life. And so that's what I love about Kabbalah. You want your soulmate, you want millions of dollars, you want health and wholeness. You need to know how to play the game in order to win at the game, or you can play the game and struggle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. You have clearly showed what is the bigger picture of ours, and as well as how we can operate on in this materialistic world as well. It's pretty much clear. We are looking forward to check out the information you have mentioned in this book. And coming to your book, Jennifer, you have mentioned a lot on inner child also. It's very well presented. You have given how you could have the conversation with your inner child. So what is the one thing you would tell your younger self here?
Gosh, that you're strong. You're so strong. I think I doubted my own strength when I went through hard times. I was suicidal when I was probably 16 to 20. I tried to kill myself 3 times. And I literally, I didn't think I would survive it. I just thought, I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. I suck. I didn't know how to talk to myself in a loving way. And so I wish I could go back and tell my younger self who's 16, who's trying to fit in and feels like she doesn't belong, and just tell her that I love you and you're strong and you're going to do so much greater good than you could ever fathom and imagine. And it's all within you, and just to trust that the pain you're going through now is only temporary.
Yeah, you also emphasized on self-acceptance and self-love very profoundly. Unless these tools are there with us, we can't accept anybody else or love anybody else. I do see that. And yes, so tell me about your daily practices and why are they important for you?
When that was one of the things with COVID, that's actually why I wrote this book, is that I was by myself. I was quarantining by myself in London at the time. My soulmate and I were in different countries and couldn't reconnect. And so there were 2 whole months where I was completely by myself. I didn't have my dog with me. I didn't have my soulmate. I didn't know anybody. I was like literally living in London by myself. And it was about midway through this, when I was quarantined, that I had this epiphany, and I got really sick at one point. We didn't know if it was COVID or not. But I had this epiphany that, thank goodness I have my spiritual practices, because what I would do is I would spend 6 hours a day doing every single technique that I mentioned in the book. I would do a prayer. So I start off my day with gratitude. I then set my intentions for the day. So I say, how would I love today to go? I love to set in the next book, in book 2, I'm 2/3 of the way done with it. I focus more on intentions and affirmations and some of the other aspects that we don't get into in the first book. And so I would go through and I would set my intentions. How do I want the day to go? How do I want the week to go? One of my other favorite things to do is I love to take my mala beads, and I love to do something called the Ho'oponopono prayer. Do you know about that one?
Yes, I heard of it.
Yeah, I talk about it in book 1. It's a very powerful prayer on forgiveness. So I look at, if I'm going to forgive myself, I put my right hand on my heart and I say, I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. And I might say that 10 or 12 times for myself. And then I take my mala beads and I look at, is there anybody in my life now or in the past who I might have caused harm to, who there might be space or tension between me and the other person? And I actually ask that other person's soul, how many Ho'oponoponos would you like me to do for you? And oftentimes I'll get 25 or 10 or 5 or however many. And then I use my mala beads and I might say 100 Ho'oponoponos for different people around the world. And then I also love to say something my teacher, Reverend Michael Beckwith, taught me, is I like to take my mala beads and I like to say 108 times, God is the source of my supply. So I always want to acknowledge that I'm not the one, like I'm very lucky to live a life I love, but none of it comes from me. Everything comes from the light. And when we realize that, that's when we're able to create miracles. So I go through, and again, to get into all of them, there are literally probably 100 different practices that I do every day. And some days I might do 20 of the practices. I actually have a list on my phone of the intentions that I have it all my way every day, what I would love. And there's probably 40 practices that I implement every single day.
Yeah, you have also mentioned that you were able to resolve an issue with one of your friends for practicing Ho'oponopono for 30 days, I guess. Uh, you have put it out of your experience. It's not that everybody is practicing. You didn't advise to the people, but out of your experience, you are sharing these profound tools. That's very great.
Thank you so much, Veena. Well, it's such a pleasure. And I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and your team over there at Pyramid Times.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Subscribe to the Pyramid Times channel.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was nice talking to you today.
Thank you so much.